Hey there, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, at the gym, at the beach, at the lake, hanging with your family, doing yard work. We appreciate being in your head a little bit and chatting. I'm excited about our show today. I have a very, very good friend of mine here, somebody that I hold very, very high up on my totem pole of people that matter to me and making a difference in this world. So we're going to have a conversation today about some cool topics, one of which is an initiative she's taken on that I'm fully in support of. We're going to talk about that today, which is her Ask Me Anything web series, which is super, super cool. We're going to talk a little bit about diversity. We're going to talk about agriculture. We're going to talk all kinds of stuff. Who knows what we're going to talk about? We might get all over the board. I hope we get all over the board. We'll see. It can happen. So please, everybody, give it up for my friend, the Vice President of Administration at the Organic Trade Association. Please welcome Stephanie Jerger.
Oh,
to you, girl.
Thank you so much for that welcome. I feel very warmly welcomed into your virtual studio space. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. You know, you're just such a light to be around. And I've enjoyed your company and your kinship and hanging and talking and laughing. And when you gave me a shout and we hooked up and you started talking to me about what it is you're doing, there was no hesitation that our platform was all in for you. And I can't wait to have this conversation today. But before we get into it, and I start babbling like I always do, because I'm excited about this conversation. I'm fired up today. I'm fired up like a spider monkey on Mountain Dew right now. I truly am. I'm excited because I woke up excited about this morning. I woke up, it's like, this is going to be a good day because I'm hanging with my friend Stephanie. This is how I'm finishing my afternoon today. I'm digging it. But before we do that, can you just give everybody a little bit about, hey, who you are, a little bit of your journey and bio?
Absolutely. I am Stephanie Jerger. I got into this organic space kind of very randomly. I grew up in Florida. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. So it's northern Florida, but my family has farms in West Florida in Jackson County. It's in the Panhandle area. So I grew up in a farming family. My grandfather owned 200 acres, maybe. I don't know. It was like half the whole town. And it was all farming area. Some was leased out, but I grew up in a community that was very used to eating fresh things. And so One of the things that always sticks in my craws when people do not have access to good food, I recognize that as a privilege immediately. Once I finished at Florida A&M, I'm a political science major, but I'm a minor in agribusiness just because it's an agricultural school. And I moved to Maryland and came to Baltimore, an urban city, and the food shortage and the amount of food deserts in a very large place really, really stuck to me. So I got really involved in community work here. I was the community outreach director for the Baltimore Urban League for 10 years. I've been on the National Urban League's Young Professional Programming Committee for probably 6 of those years, and I just rolled off a few years ago, just because I aged out. It's ridiculous.
Can you tell everybody what the Urban League does for those who
Absolutely.
don't know?
The Urban League is focused on economic empowerment and development for minority and underserved communities. That's Black, Brown, Pacific Islander. I think people forget about that. Native Americans, all of those people. So they're largely in urban cities, literally the Urban League. They're in places where there's going to be a lack of resources because of the amount of people or, the crowd in the city that they need to be able to provide assistance for. They provide assistance in the way of housing assistance, food, pantry assistance, educational assistance. And I was always very focused on the community outreach team, which created engagement and relationships in the community. And for me, there was always the issue of food insecurity, people who are food insecure. And I think I spent a lot of time in the community talking to people when we're talking to funders about what that means. I think that when people think about people who are food insecure, they think about people who are truly starving, but it's not necessarily an idea of starvation. It's more about people who do not have access. Like, one thing that defines a food desert is literally the amount of time it takes you to get to fresh produce or fresh groceries, how your commute is, if it is walkable, that kind of thing. That's what constitutes food desert. And I'm in Baltimore, and I can tell you one of the longest streets in this city, if anyone knows it, is called North Avenue, and there's not a grocery store on the entire street. It runs from east to west Baltimore from beginning to end, and there's not a store. So everything along that line is considered a food desert, and it's really prevalent here. So it really stuck with me in a big way, because again, I recognize my privilege. I grew up in Florida, where I could take a rock, throw it up in a tree, and get a mango. I could just like take a stick and shake it and get pecans. There was literally food everywhere. Like you could be homeless in Florida. I'd never even thought about, that kind of thing until I moved here. So it wasn't a big thing to me until I saw it in a different way. And then, as I saw it, I had to begin to be able to tell other people about it who were not as close to it. And working with the Organic Trade Association, I came in initially as an administrator, kind of doing what I do now, just on a smaller level. I've always been kind of running the show now. Todd, you know that.
Oh, it's all you, girl.
But one of the things that I saw was the intersectionality of what I was doing in the community and what OTA was doing. And the thing that I found most interesting was the people that I am talking to in the community who are food insecure, who are not certain of, if they're going to get fresh food, how they can get it, is the access they had to food was, corner store, bodega type things, packaged things, boxed things. And what they ask for are foods that are, GMO free, not modified, fresh food without pesticides. Food that they could give their kids that they didn't think was filled with hormones. And what I continued to have to reintroduce to people in that community was the word that you mean is organic. And you're not saying that. And I begin to understand this prevalent PR problem that organic has in the urban community and communities outside of the organic industry. There is the stigma to where people feel like organic is so unattainable that they do not even use the word.
Right.
So that is kind of where this whole thing arose from. And I began to feel like, as a person who can see both sides of this, I can see the organic side and the people who are outside, and I can clearly see the alignment, and I can see where you all need to be talking to each other. And so I really committed to, making that what I do at OTA. And that's really how, some of this work all kind of began.
Well, you make a really good point, in being one that's been, on this path in this sector for a long period of time. Yeah, it was expensive. I mean, it was not cheap to do in the very beginning until it scaled and got more technology and things moved along, but that's kind of changing now. And, it's in my mind, I come from the perspective a lot of ways like, well, why can't be 100% organic food in the world, right? There's no, because you can't really make an argument why you can't. It's like, well, you have this or this. And it's like, yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't, right? So I think it's so important that we have these conversations and we start looking at the values that it adds to all communities. And it's important, but you talked a little bit about food deserts, and I think people hear that terminology and they don't necessarily understand what that actually means. I think your example of, all the way across the city of Baltimore, if you've been there, it's not Main Street, right? It's a big city. It's not a little tiny. It's not Mayberry, not Main Street. It's not Mayberry, but it's interesting when you start to put things like food desert and food insecurity into conversations and start to elevate them a little bit of what it actually means. And one of the areas that, I know that you're really passionate about and what you've been working on a lot is about diversity in agriculture and what's that really mean, and how are we uplifting, our fellow citizens, our fellow people that are circling this rock with us, that live here with us, and how are we uplifting each other to drive more good food into the food system, because we need it, right? We need to continue to uplift farmers. We need, specifically, you go back into like 1920 and you look at Black farmers in America, there was almost like right at 1 million Black farmers. And you go back to the latest statistics coming out of the USDA, it's like 48,000 today, right? Yeah. It's a big swing. It's a big change. Yeah. And, we need to be thinking about how do we uplift the next generation? I don't want to see farmers decline. We already know farmers are in decline, right? Across the organic sector, across all sectors, it's a decline. And it's so dangerous. Being food insecure as a country is so dangerous. I mean, if you look at now at some of the other countries, look at what China's doing and investing money all over the world in agriculture. That's not because they want to be landowners. That's because they're securing their food supply. And then when you start thinking about it in terms like that, it becomes really, really real, in my opinion.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hi, this is Samantha Rodriguez, the marketing coordinator at Brighter Bites. Thank you for listening to Todd-versations. At Brighter Bites, we are rooted in the belief that if we give our kids something better to munch on, they will. With your support, we will continue to improve the lives of children, their families, and our communities across the country. By providing the finest nutrition education strategies and amazing fresh produce, we are growing our mission to create communities of health through fresh food. Join Brighter Bites in celebrating our 10th birthday. We are helping to create healthier habits for families across the country, one bite at a time. Learn more at brighterbites.org. Don't forget, the better we nourish, the brighter we flourish.
Yeah, no, for certain. That the USDA statistics are glaring, and I think the USDA and America's history with Black farmers and is jarring. I think it is it's very telling of why you end up with less than 50,000, certainly less than probably 100,000 actual Black farmers in the country that can actually call themselves a farmer, which is a full-time, full-scale farm, and they're running. And one of those reasons is because of those kinds of issues. With USDA, there's a history back in the 80s when you have some of the largest pieces of litigation where Black farmers were trying to, become entrepreneurs. They were already, you're coming out of the 60s and 70s. You're no longer having to share crop, right? You're being able to own the land that you have, and you want to be able to grow it and scale to a place where you can provide and be competitive in the space that the space that you're already providing for. Mm-hmm. So, USDA provides a lot of support and assistance for farmers. That's their job. But, historically, Black farmers were disenfranchised. They were denied loans or given higher interest rate loans. From 1981, and it came up again in 1996. And, just recently in the America Rescue Plan, there's $4 million set aside for debt relief for these farmers that were either denied loans, have high interest loans, higher than everybody else, longer term loans, really bad predatory loans, to get some relief. And, that was in 2021. And even still today in 2022, the litigation, the legislation is going through, but it's not been allocated to the farmers because of litigation. There are literally farmers, white businesses, or not even that, there are banks blocking this because they're going to be shorted on interest payments. They're going to be short on loan payments that they plan to have for, 30 years, as opposed to other people having 10 to 15-year loans. So those payments have still not been made. And so even right now, the data for, how many Black farmers there are could still very much be skewed. We don't know. There is very little data, and in the organic space, even less. We don't have any data for how to track how many certified organic farms are owned by Black or brown people in this country. There is not that data at all. So, as I begin this work, one of the things that I wanted to start by doing is find out who was in the space, what information do we have. And I found out immediately that I could not find out. And to me, that was alarming because I've been working with USDA for a very long time, and they track everything and they splice all kinds of information. I got, compliance measures coming out of my ears. I can do all kinds of compliance, and that's not something that's required. Mm-hmm. It's not something that's asked. Even when beginning some of this work, one of the questions that I asked, because I'm very familiar with minority and disadvantaged business certifications and how that can really impact and grow businesses, and also how the government and MDOT specifically and other places in the government, I think DOJ, there are other entities that require contractors to have, a certain amount. To build a bridge in this country for the government, you have to have a certain amount of, Black or brown contractors. And I asked that of USDA, and they don't have a requirement. And I said, why? why don't you have a requirement? Because as an organization that, you're funding to work on organic export, and trade and marketing information like OTA does, upwards of $1 million were being funded and doing this work. Why am I not made? Why are the other cooperators in this space not made to have the same contracting requirement that other parts of the government does? And it's just one more example. I was
Right.
like, you know what, there's so much to do in this space that I could start anywhere, really, and I would have been like doing better. so
Well, when you brought this to my attention, right, and I did my deep dive a little bit to look at some of these issues, right, because I was, quite frankly, naive. I knew, I would say I probably knew enough to be conversational, but certainly didn't know enough. I was shocked by what I didn't know. And one of the things that fascinated me when we got into this, you started talking about this, and then obviously we're going to lead up to our webinar series that we launched and what we've done as well. But I mean, it's Black farmers would get a loan. They would actually have to have a USDA official go to the bank with them to co-sign the loan, where a white farmer would just get the check and go to work.
Right.
And this, it's recorded. It's there.
Yes.
If they wanted to buy a piece of equipment, a Black farmer would have to go get permission to get that money, and it could be told if they were. It's like, no, you don't need that. It's really a trip how we've continued. How this is just continuing on in our country, right? It needs to. Obviously, we're having this conversation to try to promote change, right? But I think it's really, to me, was very eye-opening when you take a look at some of these cases, some of the news, or some of the articles, some of the part of the court documents that illustrate this stuff. It's it's like such a level of craziness. It just doesn't even make sense. Yeah. It's as in a lot of ways, when you look at $1 million in 1920 down to under 50,000 today, you could see why. A lot of times, it seems to me that in a lot of cases, we didn't want people to be successful.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And I think that's, it's just such a challenge, but and obviously we're in a whole different world today, right? We're having conversations like we've never had before. Right. And I think there's a couple things to take back when I think about this. One of which I think it's very easy to say that history is filled with, injustice and inequities, right? It's all about it. And there's no two ways about that. And we have to figure out a way to overcome this, right? We got to move forward together somehow to solve all this thing. I don't think that the government, in my opinion, should be expected to fix historical inequities. They can't even fix today's problems, let alone try to tackle things from the past, right? And I think we've got to make sure that as we look forward to these issues, or we try to solve these issues, that while the past sets our future in motion, right, and gives us that rule book or whatever you want to call it to go by, we don't want to be stuck there either. We want to be thinking about how do we solve all this kind of stuff too, because and look, you're right. You got people pushing back on trying to solve this problem. The banks don't want to lose the interest payments. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of things. You've got white farmers saying it's discrimination against them, right? It starts to become this massive, almost finger pointing deal, right? Where we go back and forth. So to me, it's just like, how do we, is taking money from this generation to pay back other generations? Is that the way to go? Is that part of the process? Is part of the conversation? But it's such a tough subject because it's incredibly uncomfortable to talk about these issues. People don't do it enough, right? It's a sweep under the rug type of a thing, right? And now we're in this world where if your opinion doesn't align with others, good God, you're just, they're coming at you full bore.
You'll be canceled.
I know. If you're not in the right tribe, you're out, right? And it's so dangerous because it's almost like we're in a race sometimes to implode. And so I go off on my tangent a little bit to say all that because I think that people don't necessarily understand American agriculture in the sense in which you're presenting it today, in the sense that, look, where would we be today if those million farmers were still here? What would be the outcome of this planet? I don't know. I can only prognosticate. I can only go, well, I guess, right? But it certainly made a moment of pause. And then when you start to look at the way that people were treated, I mean, just look at the way the loans were treated, that they weren't getting loans. They weren't being funded. It's really shocking to me. And so I guess my end of my tangent here, before I ask you my next question, or we keep rambling, is like, how do we solve this in a way that brings people alongside us now, right? And brings people alongside this issue and stops this divide, gets away from this crazy, cancel me out culture? Because
Yeah.
That's why people aren't showing up to the table. They're just becoming afraid to have any cojones or whatever you want to call it, to stand up and fight for some of these things that need to be talked about.
I 100% agree. And I think it takes it takes an amount of integrity in what you're doing to just say, I'm going to do what is right in spite of whatever those challenges are, which is why I really only work for mission-driven organizations. I think my entire career, and OTA is no different. That's why it was really easy to join this team.
Yeah.
But I think, there's so many places, like I said, there's so many places where there is an issue, where there's so much wrong. You can do just about anything right and be helpful. And that's kind of where I started. I really started this work in the rise of like the 2020 summer. It's a pandemic time. Everybody is having to really sit still with themselves. And I think there was the incident with George Floyd really brought up a lot of diversity and like issues for people. And it really drove a consumer rise. And people really wanted the companies they were dealing with to like, tell me your stance. Where are you on racial equity? Because I want to support you. Like, you have a lot of that going on. And OTA was no different. Again, we're all just sitting with ourselves. We had a lot of time to contemplate and think about it. And, I was in the middle of doing some compliance reporting that I do. We are funded by, some social impact group. And one of the things I have to do for them is do some reporting to them to make sure that we are still providing a social impact, because organic agriculture absolutely is a social impact issue. It's a health and wellness space, and that's how people see it. That's how funders see it as well. So for sure, I was doing that reporting. And one of the things that came along from that project is I was doing it. I do it every 2 years. And this was about my fourth year doing it at that point. And one of the things that I realized is that my reporting about our demographics and our board and our leadership was becoming more white and more male. And so I brought it to our then CEO. I've always been very, very, very grateful for the leadership at OTA. I've always been able to bring, whatever issues I had and whatever I thought would be better. And I was always listened to. I'm always really grateful for that. And also the board, because I brought it to them and I said, you all have a problem. Especially in this climate, you have a real problem. And I had already understood the problem from a community standpoint, but now from a funder and consumer standpoint, like, you all have a problem and we need to address it head on, because eventually people are going to say, what's your stance? And other companies who are having to take a stance are going to say, what's your stance, OTA? So we began looking at, what we could do. That's the first thing, they said. And the board has been extremely supportive about whatever measures I thought may have been necessary. I brought the work up, so you lead the work. That's kind of how it is. You get, you raise your hand, that means you get to do the work. And I was fine with that. I thought I had a really good sense of not only the OTA community, but, the diverse consumer community and what kind of DEI measures may need to be seen in an organization like OTA. Because at the offset, if you're outside of this and you're looking in, it looks really white male too, and that's what agriculture looks like completely. It looks very white and very male. And so, I wanted to say, let's start where we are with what we have and do what we can. And that's all we had, right? So the first thing I started to do is start look within our own membership. What do our members look like? Look at our board. Look at you all. Look at who is leading us. Do you represent the consumers? And in many of them who have, their own big companies, they said, no, my consumers don't look like this. Our conferences, do they look like the places where, you're trying to promote business or you're trying to do business? No. So, well, let's just start there. So we began to, have a full scale, onslaught of commitments to what we were going to do as an organization to diversify our internal structure, because we're starting with ourselves. I made it very clear that you all have to start with yourselves. You got to look at yourselves, and then we'll go from ourselves, which is our staff and our board, to our organization. And then we move out to the industry. And that's how we have been trying to promote and spread this. And it's become, it's gone from, our JEDI commitments, our justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion commitments that we posted on our website. And it clearly tells anyone who is looking at OTA what our commitment to diversity is. And it doesn't give a statement, but under each bullet under our platform, it gives an action. This is what we do. this is how we honor this commitment. This is how we honor this commitment. And I thought it was really important to outline it that way, because you can see a bunch of statements. You say, we support Black lives, we support gay rights, we support whatever. What do you do? What does that mean? And I thought that was really important. So that's really where we started. And it's really how all of the work that we've been doing in the past year, came about. We, started the work in 2020. And in 2021, we kind of finalized it all, made it public, kicked it off. And I mean, it's been growing like wildfire ever since.
Do you think that since, let's talk, you brought up George Floyd a little bit. Do you think that the conversation at this point is getting set back? It's not going forward in the way that it is now because of the fact that it's, we're not looking at it in ways of, look, all lives matter. I don't, they do. And I think that it's real, in some ways it's dangerous to just say this one only matters today and this one matters today. I just think we get ourselves boxed into where do you draw the racial lines? Where do you come into the point of like, yes, what happened? I'm not taking anything away from that situation. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not taking anything away from the past or even the future, but it's like at some point, has that some of that started to backfire in some ways where people don't want to hear it anymore because it's not bringing everybody together. It's almost in some ways, it's like it's pushing us into these silos. And I don't know, maybe I'm babbling in the wrong direction, but it seems dangerous, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think that no matter what you do or what you choose to support, there's always going to be an opposition. That's just how everything works. But I think it's still extremely positive anytime you decide to choose the side of inclusion and making sure that everybody can be at the table. Because I think, there's absolutely, the Black Lives Matter when that's happened. And then when Asian and Pacific Islanders were being assaulted, there was like, stop the hate AAPI. And it's like, we're always trying to like, whatever the group, and I don't see it as divisive at all. Whatever group needs the help right now, that's where we give the help. That's where we give the help. And I think in this moment and in this space, which is all we can control, this is all I have control of, is right, what I can do with OTA. So that's what I'm doing. And I can say all the BIPOC, Black, Brown, so that means Black, Indigenous, Latino, Pacific Islanders, Samoan, whatever kind of farmer you are, if you want to be in this space, then I am building something for you. Because I think as open and as socially impactful as the organic community has been, I mean, the way it's grown in 4 years is amazing. I think about the fact that I wasn't born while we're starting this. It amazes me. And what it's done in my lifetime that I can see and have benefited from, because I eat organic food. I've grown food and, I know no-till process because that's what I grew up on. So I'm very grateful to those things being passed down. But for the people who have not, if I can provide a space for them to feel included here, I think it's very important to do, because it's what I have control over right now. And I think, while I think the organic community has always probably been saying, all are welcome here. You can all come here. It's very different than saying, I built this with you in mind. And what I am doing at OTA is building something with them in mind. So they're coming, and I'm specifically trying to help this group of people because they are the people that need the help. The people who are outside of that group, the help is always available for you. All are welcome. But for this group, nothing has been built for them. So that's right.
And I love the fact that, and thank you for going down that trail with me a little bit, because it's just not, it is, and I know where your heart lies, and to the point. It's like, look, we're all on this rock circling, right? It's a really big boat we're all in, and everybody needs to be on the boat paddling and helping and doing the whole 9 yards. But, to kind of come back around to what I said and what you just said, it's really become very important in a lot of ways that we have the right public opinion going out as opposed to doing what's right. Exactly. Right? It's like, well, what do people think of me? Because I said, oh, I love kittens today. Oh, people love me. That just doesn't get us anywhere anymore, right? We've done that. We've played that game long enough. Now it's time to, your point is what you're doing is you're rolling up that shirt sleeve saying, hey, I'm creating something for you that doesn't exist today. And we're going to talk about it. I'm excited to talk about it because we just got done doing it. Now we're recording a broadcast. So I mean, it's very fresh on both of our minds. But, you know, you touched on going into the board at OTA and you talked about, hey, guys, look, let's have a really heart-to-heart conversation about this. And what does it really mean? And how are we representing 9,000 members of OTA, whatever the number is, right? You know, and it's a valid conversation. But again, I love the perspective that you're coming from. So I do want to talk about this opportunity that you've created and this, because it's super exciting to me. And it's a diversity and entrepreneurship program. And what you've created is a webinar series that we launched today, basically. Were you going to call me the guinea pig? What was I?
You were absolutely the guinea pig. I had no other first person that I was going to try this out with. I was like, if it's going to be bad, Todd will help it make it good. If it's going to go wrong, he'll be able to help me clean it up. If it flops, you know, he'll still make it fun. There was no other person to start this off with. When I thought about it, when I had like consultants and people in mind for this industry I was going to, you were first on my list. I was like, for certain. And I knew I could get you to do.
Yeah, you know, you have that. You just have to ask, and I know I'm going to say yes to whatever you ask me. But you know, but I was so fired up about it after our conversation. We talked for about an hour. We zoomed and we were back and forth. I think it was a 30-minute Zoom that went for an hour. It was one of those great ones, right? But I was so excited because of the perspective that you're taking with this and what this is about. And this Ask Me Anything concept is brilliant. So let's talk to people about it. I'm going to throw you, just give everybody some details about what it is. And then I'm going to ask a few more questions about it. And we'll talk a little bit about our time on it today.
Absolutely. The Ask Me Anything series, I'll give you overarching, right? So out of this work that we began at OTA, we developed the Diversity and Entrepreneurship Program. The program, it has a lot of facets. The biggest thing that it does is it offers minority-owned businesses, and we use the same stats for minority that the Minority Business Council and SBA does. 51% controlled by a Black, Brown, Pacific Islander, Indian, Native American, Latino business.
All of it, right? Everybody.
Stats exactly as SBA. So that's how we determine who is minority owned. And if you're a minority owned business brand or a farmer, because it doesn't just have to be a farmer, it can also be an emerging brand, because that's a big space that we want to tap into. If you have any interest in transitioning and getting help with transition, then OTA is offering a 2-year voting membership. And the voting part is very pivotal because we want to make sure that these people also vote. Our board is elected. We make unified decisions. So we want to include these voices. So that was one thing that was really important for me to have in the membership. But it offers you this membership for 2 years, and it also gives you access to cost share of money. While USDA is ramping back up their cost share program, it was down at the beginning of this process. And so OTA is offering $750, what you would get from USDA for your transition services. So anything you needed to do, certification, soil tests, applications, legal fees, whatever it was, we're not nickeling and diming and not putting a lot of red tape around what the service is for. Because what we have learned is that they need it for really different things. These are small brands, they're doing all the work themselves. I don't know what they need it for, but whatever they need it for, that $750 is directly handed to the business or the farmer. Okay. Also, one of the things we offered them was consulting services. And I think the initial number that we threw out was like up to $500 or what you needed. And as we understood more and more about what they needed, we realized they don't realize what they need. And so, I want them to truly get the benefit of consulting. And that's how this series came about. I was like, you know what? I know consultants. I'm just going to put all the consultants in the room. I'm going to put them in the room with the people who need to hear or have questions that may be able to get answered. And that's how this series came about. No one really got a chance to use the consulting services. So I really just brought the consultants to them. And, we decided to pick on a segment of the industry or expertise. We let them know ahead of time what we were going to be talking about. And they just registered. You just sign up. It was very closed. It wasn't available to everyone because I want them to understand the benefit of this program. I have told them that I am building something for them, and that is what I intend to do. So it's not open to all of our other members, because if you're already a member, you have access to a lot of these things. But one of the things we'll try to do is make it available afterwards. But for the people who are in the room, I really wanted it to be a really informal, intimate setting where they could just ask questions about whatever it was they had, based on the consultant who was there. So that's how it came about.
I love it. And again, we'll talk a little more detail about our time together, but I can't, and I don't want to forget to mention this, that you've got support from New Hope.
Yes.
And New Hope Media and their whole big, their New Hope is a to-do, by the way. They are a big to-do. So give a shout out, throw some love to New Hope. So, throw some love at them.
Cannot forget New Hope. New Hope has been a big partner in this. And I think, they see a lot of emerging brains, a lot of people who are in the emerging brain CPG space that are natural, who want to transition. And they themselves are saying, oh, we'll go to USDA or OTA. And, what they found is like the way that OTA and the way that USDA is talking about transition, when we say that, we are not at all speaking the same language as the people that we just spoke to. When they say transition, it's something completely different, and they're starting from such a different place. And when I created this program, New Hope, who has always been a good supporter of ours and is also a sponsor, one of the original sponsors of this program and this fund, they really wanted to have, put their weight behind this, because the way they explained it to me, and they're right, they said, Stephanie, there's not another vehicle like this in the organic space. There's no B2 farmer, person to person thing like this, that someone who is an emerging brand can go and get information. And, New Hope knows a lot of natural space things, but they're not an organic expert. They certainly don't know, transition things, and it's not what they do. But they certainly want to capitalize and bring those brands into New Hope Media and into shows. So they were like, yeah, we would like, we want to grow the organic pavilion. That's been our goal the whole time. We would like them to transition as well. So if you can help them, we want to put our weight behind this. So New Hope has been a really big supporter in that way.
I love it. That's great. And super appreciative of them. They've certainly been an industry stalwart. There's no two ways about that. So we shot one today. We had a blast today. We had some young entrepreneurs that are doing some cool things. We had walnut meat, we had teas, we had supplements, we had juice, we had, I'm trying to think everything off the top of my head. I mean, it was just a blast to talk to these people that were so energized. And one of the things that struck me was, they all have issues, but they all have good issues, right?
Yeah.
They can be bad issues, but they all got good problems, which is super exciting, which means, that they're winning the day. But I was shocked by some of the heavy lift that they're having to do to become organic, and the process. I mean, some of the things that they shared were, it's expensive to do. The amount of paperwork, there's no place to go to get any answers. We're having to call several times to get questions answered on 18 or 20 something page documents. They went in fact, what really surprised me is somebody can only access on a PC. You can't even use Apple product or a Mac because they don't communicate. I'm like,
had no idea.
I had no idea. It's like, so you start to think about these issues when you're looking about these young emerging brands that want to come up. So to be able to have a resource like this, to sit down and talk and to chat. And so we talked for almost 2 hours today, and just went back and forth with me asking questions and them asking questions, and facing and looking at some of their challenges. And I found it to be incredibly fun and enlightening, and opened my eyes again to things that, yes, did they ask me anything that, kind of shocked me, or I didn't really have an answer? No, not really. I mean, but it brought me back to perspective of like, every brand started, everybody started with one, right? And then went to two, and how important that is, but how much harder that is today than it would have been, back 35 years ago.
You think with technology and stuff, it would be getting easier, but it's in fact getting more cumbersome to come into this industry.
Yeah, I agree. But to listen to the optimism and the excitement and the passion, like I mentioned to them, I said, nobody's going to love your brand more than you will. Doesn't matter. I don't care how many people tell you it tastes good. They ain't going to love it like you do. And you got to remember that, right? You got to remember that's the core behind your brand, is your heart, where your heart lies. And God, it was super motivating. And so I say all that because I think it's a golden opportunity to mentor, which I am always about, and I'm always willing to talk about. And mentor to me is nothing more than being a friend, right? And making yourself available. It's not like, you don't have to carve out a lot of time. Just a text message is a way to mentor, right? And I think that there's a call to action that the industry has an opportunity to step up and do that I think will blow people away to sit and listen to these young folks and these entrepreneurs trying to carve away and to try to give them a little advice and some help. It was powerful.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hi, this is Samantha Rodriguez, the marketing coordinator at Brighter Bites. Thank you for listening to Todd-versations. At Brighter Bites, we are rooted in the belief that if we give our kids something better to munch on, they will. With your support, we will continue to improve the lives of children, their families, and our communities across the country. By providing the finest nutrition education strategies and amazing fresh produce, we are growing our mission to create communities of health through fresh food. Join Brighter Bites in celebrating our 10th birthday. We are helping to create healthier habits for families across the country, one bite at a time. Learn more at brighterbites.org. Don't forget, the better we nourish, the brighter we flourish.
It's inspiring. And every time I am tired in doing this, then I get an email from one of them or a call from one of them because I'm in constant contact. It gives me a little more motivation. Just keep going, just because whatever it is working. I mean, you heard from them. They told you it's easy to just give up. This process is hard. I could easily just stop. They said it several times, but they've all decided to continue going because I'm trying to create ways to give them more spaces like this and remove the barriers, because there's so many barriers that I think that we are just not even thinking about. And I'm even talking about today, the people that we had on, they were all native English speakers. Let us not even bring to the point, the issues that they brought forth. If you were not a first language, a native English speaker, what that challenge would also be bringing for you.
Yeah.
It's so easy to give up. And I think that there's so much value in me hearing from them because I have the ear of the organic community, and I am telling you all what we think we're doing, we're not doing. The information we think we're providing, it's not landing. The services we think are enough, they're not. And if we want to continue growing this organic space, which we need to, I cannot say it enough times, we need more people saying the word organic. With the way that it's splintering and there's so many competing things and consumer confusion, you need more people saying the word. We need to create more allies and make it easier for people to continue to join this space if we ever, going to hit 200 billion. Because that's the goal, right? We want to grow the industry as a whole so that everybody can benefit, but we need to make it easier for people to come in. And I think that, all of the services we offer, all of the education we provide, and not only us, USDA, everyone, we think we're doing the right thing and probably are, but it's not at all what they need because we're truly not listening to them in this way. And when you listen to them in this way, you find out you don't know jack. You're like, I am not doing what I thought I was doing.
No, and I think that, when I think about a call to action on this, right? I'm going to give you a two-part questions, like, how does the industry come alongside to help, right? And what do you need, and who do you need to step up? I'll put those together. But, in listening to what they were talking about today, it's like, God, what a great opportunity for a retailer to be a part of this, to give some guidance. Yeah. One of the questions is like, how do I get into a retailer? I go to the store. And I know, this person and they love my stuff. And now I'm working my way up, it's all these challenges. They just don't know what to do. And I think that there's a really great opportunity to empower some emerging brands that are, not on everybody's radar, but, given what I was told today and given the way they were talking about their product and what they are, there's some, my exact word, I go, there's some ballers here. There's some baller brands that were in this meeting today that just aren't on the radar yet that are going to be amazing. Yeah. Was that your cat?
Look, it's time for me to be off. She's like, why are we still in the office? So she's joined.
I haven't had a cat on a broadcast. This is like number 100.
Oh my gosh.
My first cat.
This cat is like famous at OTA. Everyone in that office has seen her. Probably some board has seen her. She constantly is in this office and she works whatever hours I work. So, she's still working.
It's hard. Hey, good. It's good to get good flavor.
I certainly want to be able to give information about how you can come alongside because there's so much that people can do. And I think that I want to say, first and foremost, you all can be supportive in the space. So whenever people are talking about this and wanting to diversify the organic space and community, you can speak supportively about it, even if you don't know enough. Say, I'll send you to somebody who does. Like, just be supportive. Because I think it's very easy for people who want to join this space to get deterred when they feel like, the one person that they met didn't treat them right, because that's literally the first barrier. When I met this one person and they were not supportive, I'm not going to go any further. It's an easy way to deter people. So first of all, you can do that. Be supportive of the work. Two, I can't say it enough, and I have no issue saying, there's funding. The work that I am doing is not unfunded. It costs money to do all of these things. Sure. It costs money to provide them with consulting, to provide them cost share services. It costs money to provide scholarships for them to attend trade shows and put them in spaces that are, conferences where they really truly should be and be mingling and networking. It costs to do all that. So for sure, you can always provide funding. And in an OTA, you have the option to say, I want to specifically provide funding for that. So we've made it a key initiative in a way that, even if you're, just not even a member, you can support in that way. You can do that. Our friends of organic can just support diversity. You can just do that. So don't ever hesitate to give me money because I'll use it. And I think I do a really good job of letting people know about how it's getting used. I constantly cover information. I want you to know what we're doing with this information, with this money, and we're doing a lot. There's a lot being done, and I'll go over that soon. But also, you can, volunteer to do this. This series I planned for 6 months. I said, let me just try 6 of them. And I've already got 4 of them booked in like 2 weeks. So I'm probably going to go a little further, and they absolutely can always use it, just because as more people come into the program, they'll need to hear more and more of the same information. They'll have access to these recordings, but there'll be new information, new challenges, new good problems. And the more people that I have and the more diverse spaces and sectors that I have, certifiers, retailers, distributors, co-packers, those are all issues that we heard today. It would benefit to have someone in that space who can talk to how people can overcome those challenges. And, honestly, you can market your own businesses. They're looking for you. They don't know where to find you. Right. They have no idea where to find you. And what I'm creating is a space where they can find you. So if people have interest, please reach out to me and let me know, and I will create a space to give you an audience that is looking for what you have to offer. So I think
it was super fun. Yeah, it was super fun. It really was. And it's so worthy to do. And I know that, you could see it, because we did it over Zoom. You can see the energy of these people. You can see that, they didn't feel alone out there in a lot of ways. And I thought it was very, very powerful. Now I know, you've got 6 of them that are coming. We did the first one. We're going to get that up and posted coming up here whenever. But you're also going to have some stuff going on at Expo East coming up. And I want to make sure that we touch on that in our time. I want to make sure that people know that when they're there, how to get involved, how to look around, how to, check it out, check under the hood, see what it's all about.
Exactly. No, we have so many things. This program, again, we really launched in 2021. We kind of got it off the ground. And in that time, we've created so many things, and we're doing so much. So we created our sector council at OTA, a diversity council, which is extremely unique because it really focuses only on this work. And one of the things I think is really unique about the council is it doesn't focus on one specific sector the way the rest of our councils do. So we're not focused on one entity or one subject. This is about creating diversity everywhere we can all across the board. And one of the really fun things I think about for the Diversity Council is anybody can join, right? If you're from milk, if you're from meat, if you're from dairy, it doesn't matter. And also, it's one of the places where people who do not usually get to engage because they're not government affairs, they're not regulatory, they're not on the board, they don't really get to engage. The Diversity Council is full of HR professionals, the accountants, the marketing people. That's who it's full of. And those are truly voices that you need to be able to take back information to your team and dismantle, distill it in another way, for sure. So it's really interesting to have that go on, but that's been developed out of this. One of the largest things we've done is developed a partnership with the National Latino Farmers and Ranchers Association. That's been a huge partnership. They have the same data challenges as everybody else, but I mean, they represent anywhere from 7,000 to 70,000. We don't know Latino and Native American farmers in this country, but they truly have the ear. They have a huge following, and they have the ear of a lot of cattle ranchers and migrant workers and farm workers who truly want to become organic. And now that they have truly taken on the cause of telling their constituency, organic is the way, which is huge. Again, I am all about coalition and ally building. We need more allies. We need more people saying the word organic. So that's been a huge thing. We're going to go to their conference. We're participating in their conference in October in Albuquerque because they came to our organic week, 22 out of zero. This was this past organic week in DC. If anyone was there, it was the most diverse you've ever seen, for certain, hands down. It looked completely different because we flew out a lot of, we provided scholarships for a lot of the diversity participants. We got a lot of the National Latino Farmers. We provided scholarships. We invited people that we don't usually reach out to. And that is what this whole movement has been doing. Another thing, for Expo East, we're going to have an education session. Don't hold me to the date, but I think it's going to be on September 29th. But it's going to be the launch of our diversity toolkit. One of the things that, and I started out getting information and finding out all the things that I truly don't know. We did a survey, and some of you may have remembered it, may have received it from OTA, and we wanted to find out what our members were doing about diversity at their places, how we could help them diversify their supply chains, their companies, whatever. We wanted to get more information, and the first thing we heard, and the most prevalent thing we heard, was that we can't diversify because we can't find any. It's complicated. We don't know where to find them. We can't bring in speakers. We don't know where to find them. That was what we heard all the time for speakers, for businesses, for farmers, that kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? First assignment. What we're doing is launching a toolkit, and the toolkit has a bunch of diverse resources. The first thing we're going to highlight in the toolkit is the speaker bank, because I think that's the best way, is to put people in a room with the people who need to hear what they have to say. Diversify these conferences, diversify policy conference, eco farm, organic ecology, bring more people there. And as you're looking for people, I want to tell you, OTA is going to have a place where you can justify them. We got a list of them. We have a very, very diverse group of people who are very clearly aligned with the things we do. Either they're organic businesses or they're environmental businesses, they're sustainability experts, they're all kinds of things. And they're all speakers. And then we're just going to put them all in one place with their contact information. Just reach out to them. You don't have to, we're going to put in one place for you. Another thing we're going to do is, for certain yourself, the social media influencer space. As you're working on campaigns as a business, you're working on, wellness and that kind of stuff that we're working on, these people who can promote your business, we're going to put influencers, a very diverse group that you can just add, which immediately diversifies not only what you're doing, but your audience, because they have an audience as well. So we're going to put that in one place. Like you said, you did a deep dive on articles and looking up. We're putting reading material, print and media, digital articles and books. These are places and this information you can just tap in right here. Go to your Audible, see if you have this book, go listen to it. Yeah. It adds a whole new light to everything you're working on or thinking about. We're also going to put in contractors. One thing that is very clear to us, and one of the internal things we did, is I began to have our staff at OTA ask for diversity. I told them, one of our things for that USDA contract, they don't have a requirement, but OTA has a requirement. Last year, the requirement was 10%. This year, it's going to be 15%. Next year, it's going to be 20. I'm going up to 25. And when I get to 25% of all my contractors on my USDA grants being Black or brown people, I'm taking it to USDA and said, you need to make everybody do this. Clearly, it can be done.
I love it.
Clearly, it can be done. So, and everybody on staff at OTA knows, I'm not signing a contract that has not asked for diversity. Don't bring me a contract. What does their company look like? What do they do? And I think even for us, right? One of the things I started that with is we changed auditor. We were just changing auditor because every 5 years we should look at auditors, and and I had a recommendation come in. I had recommendations from some accounting firms, and they sent me 6 white firms. And I'm like, this is fine. I can accept that you can't find me a Black-owned agronomist to sell a soil test company, but I'm not going to accept that you can't find me one Black or brown accounting firm. I just won't accept it. And I forced them to find me to. They found me two, one Black-owned woman company and one Latino-owned company. And what we do in order to have that process is a blind process. So I take the entire RFP, I put it to someone else on our board. Our board has the subset of people who look at it, our audit committee. They look at it. They don't know any demographic. Know who they pick out of all 8? The Black-owned company, Latino-owned company, top ones. So our company now is a Black woman-owned company, and I will tell you, it's one of the best firms we have ever had. So that is where we are going. So what we're doing in that also, that bank, is we're providing, links to every state almost has a minority business like entity, a council. Here, just go, you can go look in your state, and these are the businesses in your state. Here's a contractor, you can diversify your business. You can find a media company or a print company or a janitorial company or, an equipment distribution company. You can find a way to diversify your company. And I will tell you, the difference that it makes in diversifying your company, adding companies who are not in the organic space to the organic space is huge. Because for us, awarding a $40,000 contract for us in this space is nothing when we're dealing with millions of dollars in exporting grants. But when you add a $40,000 contract to a Black-owned company who was grossing $100,000, it changes their company drastically. Sure. And it opens you up to way more perspective and way more information than that you didn't have before. And we have seen that in doing this new contracting procedure, which we're completely following at OTA. So that's also what's going to be in the tool bank. So that's everything that's going to be in that toolkit. It's going to launch at Expo East. It won't be live until then. Yeah. And what happened is we'll have a space on each of those little buckets for someone to say, add me. Because as you send people to it, get added to it. And that's how it grows. And it becomes a living, breathing repository of like a resource that our members and public can use. So.
I love it. You go, girl. I mean, you're on fire. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a higher calling that that you're taking on, that you've undertaken. And then I can hear it. I can see the passion. I can feel it. I mean, I know you well enough to know that this is like, you got the the cape on and you're kicking in doors and the whole 9 yards.
I mean,
I'm super proud of
it's helpful. It's helpful that I have people like you, and of course, our CEO and my board. I mean, when I brought this to them, everybody was like, okay, well, what do we do? Somebody, and like from that point on, they've been like, do it. Yeah. It's growing, and so everybody has been very supportive.
Well, people need to get involved. They can reach out to you via email. They can get on the OTA web. I mean, it's not hard to track you down.
Nope.
But people need to get involved. And that's my call to the industry, my call to action. Give yourself. You're going to mentor. This is a great way to try. It's a great way to get your feet, put a toe in the water, see what it does for you. I had a blast doing it today. I want to come back and do it again. You haven't opened up, whatever. I'm up because it was fun. It really was. It was super fun. And it was a great conversation. I don't know. It fired me up. I told you, that little spider monkey on Mountain Dew going through me right now because we did it. But I in all seriousness, and I mean this really from the bottom of my heart, when I say that it's true, I'm very proud of you for what you're doing, and you should be proud of yourself. I mean, you have, you're talking about stuff that makes, you're talking about stuff that makes people uncomfortable. You're talking about stuff that people don't want to deal with. I don't want to have to deal with. It doesn't affect me. It does affect you. It affects all of us, right? Until we all come to the realization that we're all a part of the same world, and we're all trying to get to the, whatever that quote unquote finish line is. We're going to do it a hell of a lot better together than we are apart, because apart is not working. You can see it now.
It's not working.
It ain't working, kids. I mean, it's not. And there has to be mechanisms that are created and conversations that are started from those mechanisms to unify voices in order to move us forward on any kind of an issue. And it's just, this is a great way to start. Get involved, find her, get to her, get on one of these. It's safe, it's fun, it's a blast. I know, it's a blast. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing the work. I thank you for hanging out with me. I thank you for calling. Thank you for, and I'll say it again too, and I'll take ownership. I thank you for opening up my eyes and making me step back and get a little smarter on an issue that, I thought I knew something about, but I didn't know enough about. Right. And it's okay. And I'm not, and I'm,
that's what I'm learning. I am learning that.
I'm happy to say it. Right. I'm happy to say it, that, it got me thinking a little bit more about things, and you go back and reflect and you see what it was. It's like, just what I said, we all got to figure out how to do it together, because we are not making it work by doing it apart. And it ain't going to work, man. It's just not. I can see it coming. And we ain't going to Mars either, right? So you can't run off to there and hide.
There's no alternate place we can go. We're here.
Not at all. So thank you very much for being here. I do appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Todd.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope that you take a moment to pause and ask yourself, are you mentoring? Are you doing something? Are you inspiring somebody today? I say it all the time. It's so important to be that source of inspiration. Stephanie's a source of inspiration. She's uplifting people that you probably didn't even know existed on this planet, but you have an opportunity to do that. So step up, give her a shout, get involved with this program, host one of the webinars with her, share, give some people some ideas. Let's see what we can do to change the world if we work together. So thank you for listening. Go check us out on all the social media places. That's where the cool kids are. That's where we hang out. Like I tell you all the time, TLC_Todd-versations. It's all over the board. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your August and your summer. Hope the mosquitoes aren't biting and the fish are, or whatever it is, whatever's in your repertoire of summer stuff to do. We appreciate you. Remember, go inspire somebody today. It's really important. I really believe that. And this conversation certainly did that. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.